It was anticipated because the White Knight had been the now bankrupt FTX for them previously.
We have been expecting a filing and reporting now for at least a week here that this would be expected at some point, and now we have some details. And what do we have from them? We have not just the plan to file for bankruptcy in New Jersey, we have some details about the scope of how big this bankruptcy proceeding is going to be. So $1 billion to $10 billion in assets is the general size of BlockFi.
It's quite a large size.
Quite a large size, but more than 100,000 creditors. We would have to keep an eye on future filings to see how many that will ultimately be. Remember, FTX also had checked that last box on their filing, and it found out later that was about 1 million people at play here that we're talking about. We also know that the concentration is different among the unsecured creditor group. So what is that exactly? It's more than 700 million that is really highlighted here, earmarked to the trustee of different depositors, FTX itself, which we'll talk a little more about, I know, and then also you have the SEC from the remainder of a
Number 4, right? They're the fourth biggest creditor.
So there are a lot of names that you don't have here, similar to FTX, but you know that those amounts are kind of isolated here between $1 million and $30 million. So you might see more contagion there among the people that they're owed money to, because you don't know what they'll get back yet, but we know that that is the general size of per customer, per creditor here that is owed money and how much generally they're owed.
There's a question of chronology and timeline, because it's clear BlockFi had issues before FTX's collapse, but at the same time, FTX's collapse seems to have made things worse for BlockFi. If you follow that, Sonali, what is the relationship now between the two?
The claim here on the bankruptcy filing is about $275 million for FTX earmarked. There's some really interesting unanswered questions here, Ed. If you look at the testimony by an advisor here, you had seen that they didn't get money. They didn't get all the money that they had asked for from FTX to begin with, according to the BlockFi filings. Now remember, to your point, some of these issues started before FTX. That's why FTX got involved in the first place. They were related to Three Arrows. In FTX's filing, I would also point out that apparently the U.S. business of FTX lent money to BlockFi in part through that FTT token. And so my question here is this entire agreement, who owes who what, and who is responsible for actually paying each other back after this kind of tight web they've knitted after the Three Arrows debacle, I think is interesting. Now, remember, BlockFi has also said that getting money back from FTX might take time given FTX's own bankruptcy. So things are certainly complicated between the two.
Sonali, over the weekend, it looked as though much of crypto Twitter decided to up sticks and leave to the Bahamas at some point and do their own digging in some way, shape or form. That is because of the different jurisdictions with which FTX has been enveloped. Same thing here with BlockFi a bit. Obviously, Chapter 11 is a protection here in the US, but it wasn't just based in the US.
I spent an inordinate amount of time with bankruptcy lawyers today for that reason, because to that end, they
had the only people that win, Sonali.
Truly, in this case, I will tell you just how much in a moment, but for BlockFi, they filed a petition with the Bermuda Supreme Court here so that they would have provisional liquidators in both regions now. Remember, from Bahamas' point of view for FTX, there is a lot of dispute that has occurred since the bankruptcy proceedings have begun, and to the point that you even have the Attorney General saying that some of the words that have come from the new FTX CEO are regrettable. So to the extent that the Bermuda government and the US stay in line in this bankruptcy filing, again, they want to recoup money for their customers, for their own people, and at the end of the day, what it seems like from the statements we're seeing from the Bahamas is also redefine the credibility of every single jurisdiction's financial system and ability to embrace crypto still, but have tight rules around the industry such that people don't lose their funds.